Hi there. Thank you for joining UnSCRIPted. I'm Angela Kashuba, Dean of the UNC Eshelman School of Pharmacy. Here at the school, we have an amazing community with a shared goal of solving the world's most pressing healthcare challenges. And I'm excited for you to hear stories of our faculty, staff, students, alums, and partners. And today, I've invited Tamera Hughes, who is a postdoc in our PACE division, to my office for a conversation. So Tamera, welcome. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So tell me a little bit about your journey to the PACE division.
Yeah. So my journey to the PACE division was a little non-conventional. I actually had recently graduated from pharmacy school. I received a PharmD PhD. My PhD was in pharmaceutical sciences, but I was actually thinking about switching from lab-based work and trying to transition to community pharmacy work. And I remember Googling, actually, this is why I say non-conventional. I remember Googling about community pharmacy and what was happening in community pharmacy across the nation. And I ran across Stephanie Ferreri's information, who is now the chair of PACE. Okay. And I remember reaching out to Stephanie, asking if I could learn from her to learn more about community pharmacy practice and how to advance community pharmacy practice. And I sent her an email. We connected, and that is actually how I ended up at the PACE division through a postdoc program to kind of help train researchers who are interested in advancing community pharmacy practice.
So wait, we have to unpack this a little bit more. So you got your PharmD PhD, and your PhD was in bench science?
Yes.
Okay, so talk about your dissertation.
Yes, so my dissertation, I always say the title, so it was a computational study of novel kynurenine 3 monooxygenase inhibitors. And so this enzyme is an enzyme that has been shown to be overactive in a lot of diseases such as Alzheimer's, Huntington's, also some cardiovascular diseases. And so our goal was to try to mitigate those effects by finding inhibitors to stop, again, the unwanted effects of that enzyme. And so there came a point, I think, in my pharmacy career where I started to learn more about the pharmacists, specifically the community pharmacists, and the impact that they had on their community. And I'm sure you are aware, being in the lab sometimes can get a little lonely. And it's totally different when you're in a community pharmacy setting. You're getting to know the people in your community. And I think that, I had a great sense of community. I felt like I was making a difference in community pharmacy. And so while I love the things that I did in my dissertation, I didn't see that impact. Drug design takes 15 to 20 years sometimes before you really see the fruits of your labor. Whereas I felt like in a community pharmacy, I could see my impact that day by sending someone home on a medication that's going to help, cure whatever is wrong with them. And so that's why I decided to make that shift.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me what you're working on now in your postdoc.
Yeah. So in my postdoc, specifically, I'm looking to bridge communities of color as well as marginalized communities, so thinking about rural communities, bridging the care for community pharmacies and access within these systematically marginalized and minoritized communities. And what I'm starting to notice is that sometimes in those communities, people aren't aware that their pharmacist is someone that they can go to and ask for help. And so I'm trying to kind of bridge that care and access to care in those communities so they are aware that community pharmacists are there and community pharmacists can help them with their health outcomes.
Oh, I love that. So when we look at North Carolina, this is particularly important for our state because we are a majority rural state. So what communities are you looking at specifically?
Yeah, so currently I have partnership in Edgecombe County. And so that is a rural county that is predominantly African American. And so I've been partnering with community partners in that area to help, again, identify the community pharmacists in that area, identify what kind of services they offer, and if there is a lack of services, trying to increase the health services that these community pharmacists can offer to help, again, help patients, whether it be diabetes or hypertension.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, I am kind of working more so with opioid use disorder and
Mm.
helping educate patients about the harmful use of opioids and ensuring that these pharmacies are providing access to patients with opioid use disorder or patients who are on chronic opioid therapy.
Yeah, that's terrific. You have a passion for diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And in the biomedical sciences in particularly, what are your thoughts on where we are now, particularly as you've been working with pharmacies in the communities,
Mm-hmm.
you've been working with community members, and where we're headed?
Yeah, I think we are at a good starting place. When I still think about, some of the challenges or barriers that I have as an African American woman
Yeah.
in the biomedical sciences, I still sometimes feel that enough hasn't been done,
Okay.
but I'm starting to see that progress is being made. Sometimes when I really think about it, I always wonder, like, where does it start? And so I
Mhm.
see that here within the university, we're doing great things to kind of bridge the gap for diversity in biomedical sciences. But I wish that there was a lot being done more in high schools or middle
Mm.
schools or in undergrad. We go towards paths that we see other people doing. And so when I was in school, you either went to medical school or you
Mhm.
became a scientist. And so
Okay.
that was all I knew was bench science or medical science. I knew nothing about the pharmacist.
Mm.
And I think about how there's a lot of people that look like me that are eager to do the work.
Yeah.
We just don't know how to break in. We don't have the support sometimes. And again, it's very I guess the word would be it's scary
Mm.
sometimes to walk a path that you've never seen kind of laid out for you by someone that looks like
Right.
you. And
Right.
so I think it's important for us to try to continue to do things that are increasing diversity, equity, and inclusion in our biomedical sciences because, again, people are looking up to us. Like, hopefully,
Mhm.
there's someone who's looking at me and is like, well,
Yeah.
Tamara did it, so now I can do it. And I feel
Yes.
like I haven't fully had that experience, so sometimes I feel a little alone, if I can say,
Yeah,
a little
sure.
alone trying to
Sure.
navigate this process. But I stay for others because I
Yeah.
know that someone else is going to look at me and try to forge that way as well.
I love that.
Yeah,
If you see it, you can be it.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So you talked about mentorship
Yes.
or being able to have
Mm-hmm.
a mentor who can help guide you. And I understand that you mentor PharmD students
Yes.
and you mentor high school
Mm-hmm.
students as well. So
Mm-hmm.
can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So again, I think I'm here because of the mentorship that I received.
Mm.
And I think it's always been important for me to make sure that I'm able to do that same to others. So it's very interesting. I think before I even did my first project here as a postdoc, I was able to participate in the Carolina Myers program.
Okay.
And so basically, that's a program for high school students that are in I want to say, I believe they're in the Durham area, Wake
Mhm.
County, Orange County area.
Mhm.
And basically, the goal was to expose them to science. And so it was really exciting for me. I remember sending in my application and I wrote, like, I'm a pharmacist. I do work in a pharmacy. And the director called me. She was like, we've never had a pharmacist.
Oh,
We've,
wow.
the students are not aware of what pharmacists can do. And I was like, I'm doing something that I wish I would have had
Yes.
in high school. And so I had the opportunity to mentor two girls that were in the area. And we did a lot of work. I think one of them had a project on how pharmacists could help with antibiotic use.
Yeah.
And so, again, thinking about as a high schooler, I would have never known that that's something that a pharmacist can do. And so, again, getting that early exposure early on.
Yeah.
So now there's an opportunity for more people who look like me to
Yes.
enter the world of pharmacy. And so I love my work, but I really like the work that I do with mentoring students. And I think it's important because, every time I mentor a student, I always hear, I'm so happy or so thankful that I met you because you did it the non-traditional way.
Yeah.
You show me that I don't have to have it all figured out.
Right.
Sometimes there's other opportunities for me. And I think, again, looking back on what I wish I had, I wish I would have seen someone who, changed their careers,
Yes.
in the middle of a good journey. That, like, my PhD was going great. I was very successful in it, but I still decided to change my mind. And so I'm happy that I am showing up for young women in a way that I wish I had someone show up for me. Yeah. And I think that's what keeps me motivated to continue the work that I do and continue to reach back and help others.
Right. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
I think you have a great mission, and to be able to kind of combine what you're doing through research along with what you're doing through mentorship is really terrific. Yeah, that's great. You try new hobbies every year. I understand.
Yes.
So, which is, I think, very brave of you to do.
Yeah.
So, can you talk a bit about that? Like, where did that come from? How did that come about?
Yeah.
And what's been like your favorite so far?
Yeah. So it's interesting because my parents have always described me as curious, and so I think in my adulthood, I've been able to explore so many different things, and one of those things is hobbies. So I remember, I feel like I started this really in pharmacy school.
Okay.
If I'm being honest, where I was like, there has to be more to just studying, going to. There has to be more.
Right.
And so I think I remember just looking up. I think it started with New Year's resolutions, like, oh, this year I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that, and the things that I started to pick started to become hobbies and things that I enjoyed. And so I remember the first one that I picked was like, I'm going to do a 5K every month. And I ended up doing a 5K every month. And I ended up finding out I love running. Wow. And then the next year was like, well, what am I going to do? And I was like, I think I'm going to read a book every month. Okay, we're going to start. And so I've always been, again, the inquisitive person. I always wanted to try new things. Last year, it was the aquarium hobby. So I actually started with a 10-gallon of 5 fish. Okay. I now have 4 fish tanks.
Oh my goodness.
With probably over 50.
Oh my goodness.
With probably over 50 fish. Wow. And so that has been the most interesting hobby that I've picked up. And it's so interesting because running, I probably don't run as much as I should. I do probably walk every day, but the aquarium hobby has been a hobby that I've continued. Lately, I've also done baking. So this is something I'm really excited about because, again, I'm from Mississippi, and one thing that I discovered when I left Mississippi is that everything doesn't taste the same, like from where you were at home. Yes. And so I remember moving to Georgia for pharmacy school, and I was like, what was that recipe that my aunt used to make? Or what was that recipe that my grandma used to make? And I remember like trying to ask people, where did this recipe come from? And so I always heard about this Bell's Best cookbook. My aunt told me that most of the recipes you grew up with, I'm pretty sure came out of that cookbook. Wow. And so it hasn't been in print since the 70s, but I was able to find a pre-owned copy for like $70.
They're rare.
They're rare, okay. And I guess highly sought after. Yeah. The book is probably this thick. Oh, wow. And so I've been actually going through the recipe book. As you can see, you can't hold me down to just one specific area. I don't know. Do you have any recommendations for a hobby to try next year? Because I'm looking for one.
Well, I know you're expecting your first child.
Yes.
So I say that's going to take up most of your time. So you might just slow down a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's a game changer.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And very excited for
Thank you
as well. Well, I love that you are shining your light over community pharmacy, and in North Carolina, I think we are going to be the better for it. Thank you so much for spending time with me today.
Yes.
And thank you all for also joining today's episode of UnSCRIPted. We love sharing stories of those who make the UNC Eshelman School of Pharmacy excellent. And I hope you will join us for the next episode of UnSCRIPted, where we are having conversations with people who are advancing medicine for life. Thanks so much.